Folks, welcome back to the Bobby Bo Show. This is one of my greatest games of all time, and I can't wait to share it with you. Here's the moves it starts with. It's the Queen's Gambit, of course, but I'm pretty sure that even if you play e4 first, you can still get the same position, because after knight f6, I take the pawn, they take back with the knight, and now I play e4, and we have both pawns in the center, and the evaluation is already +1, but still a decently even game, and they go back to f6, and these two center pawns are going to be very strong, but this pawn's not defended, and I can either push it right now, or play knight to c3, defending it, and now they're going to play e6, and they're getting ready to pin my knight to the king. e5 is a little bit better here, but now I can play e5, and maybe a little bit of an inaccuracy here, maybe bishop to d3 a little bit better, but after knight to d5, attacking my knight here, which I'm not worried about. If they take, I'll take back, and I'll have 3 strong pawns in the middle, and a little bit of a space advantage, so I'm not going to take that knight. I'm just going to play knight to f3, defending my pawn here, adding a little bit of support to the middle, getting my piece out, and maybe setting up for a little trap, because the knight is not on f6, and the knight on f6 is usually a very good defensive knight here, and they do not realize that. They play bishop to b4, pinning my knight to the king, and they have 2 attackers here. So if they take with check, I take back with the pawn, they take with the knight, and I lose a pawn. Bad move, so I have to defend it. And a lot of times I play queen to c2, putting my queen on the open file, where I like to put my rook behind it, and also putting my queen on the diagonal, and I can bring my bishop out here to d3 and line it up. But I remember that there's a certain trap that they might fall for, because their knight is not on f6, and I set it up with bishop to d2, keeping my queen on d1, which is very important, defending the knight here, and now they make a pretty natural move, knight to c6, developing the knight, adding pressure to the middle here, and it doesn't say there's anything bad about it, but it's not the best move, and it continues to lead towards the potential trap, which comes after bishop to d3, and now their next move is most likely going to be a blunder that loses the game immediately. And what would you do here if you're black? What's the most natural move for black here? Okay, so I pulled the game up on Lichess. This is the exact position that I'm in right now, and this is the Lichess analysis board. It's a free analysis that you can use to see the best moves, and you can also see how many games have been in the same position as you. So in the current position, there's been 1,700 games played in this exact position, and you can see all the moves that black is most likely to play next. So out of 1,700 games, the most common move is castling. 578 times, a third of the time they're going to castle here. That's the most common move, and it's the worst possible move. Loses the game immediately. You can see white has a 73% chance of winning if they castle. And this is just all the games on Lichess that have been played in this position. So I'm sure on chess.com it's even more. So out of 1,700 games on Lichess, the most common move is castling. So if you castled, congratulations, you played the most common move and fell for the trap, and you just learned something new. Because what's the next move? The brilliant, legendary bishop captures h7. And after they take, knight to g5 check, and it's defended by the bishop here. And now they have to go back, king g8, the best move according to the engine, but now queen h5, and you're threatening checkmate in 1. And they have to take with the queen here, or else it's checkmate. If they play rook to e8, trying to get the king out, queen captures f7 check, king h8, queen h5 check, king g8, queen h7 check, king f8, queen h8 check, king e7, and finally, queen captures g7 checkmate. You can't block it. King can't go anywhere. So an incredible sequence there, which means they have to take with their queen. So queen for knight, and now I sacrificed a bishop, took a pawn, and they traded their queen for a knight. So 2 pieces for a queen and a pawn. That's a good trade, and we're completely winning. But now knight captures d4, threatening the fork here, but I'm not worried about it. Knight captures d5. And I'm trying to either simplify, take this bishop, or if this bishop takes here, then I check with the knight, king moves over, and then it's checkmate. So I'm trying to get this checkmate here. And after bishop captures d2, I still want that checkmate, and I'm also looking at the queen here and the pawn coming down here. So I take back with the king, and I should have taken back with the queen, because after the pawn takes my knight, then I could take their knight with my queen, and then I'm up another piece, and I'm still winning, but I would have been more winning. And they can't actually stop this threat of the queen in front of the king and the pawn coming down the board here and the rook behind it. So let's see how it goes. h4, and now knight to e6. Okay, attacking my queen. I'm just going to go back to g3, keeping the queen in front of the king here, continuing to push with the pawn, and try to go for checkmate. Now knight to c5, and what do you do now? Well, you should immediately notice that this knight is about to fork your king and your queen. So you have to do something about that. And f3 is fine here. Defending the square. Keeping the queen in front of the king here. And now bishop to e6. They should probably have their bishop on f5 to defend the square here. But now h5, and I'm just running it down. Now bishop to f5. Now it's where it's supposed to be, but they wasted a move. But it doesn't matter anyway, because now after h6, I'm threatening checkmate. So g6, now the bishop is defended by the pawn, and this pawn's defended by this pawn. So what do? Well, I'm still attacking the king here. I just have to maneuver my queen around. I played queen to g5, and I'm just going to come down here and checkmate. So they have to stop that. They play king to g7. And now, after I play queen to f6, they can either bring their rook over, or play knight to e6, defending the square here. But now, this knight has to defend against checkmate, and this rook has to defend against me taking this pawn. So my queen is currently threatening checkmate and locking down two of their pieces. And also, there's another crushing move here. How do you win a piece? Well, now this bishop can't go back, and if you play g4, it's trapped. So the best move is to take the pawn and try to get something out of it. But after I take back, I'm +5 material. I'm threatening checkmate. Two of their pieces are still locked down. Well, what do they do if two of your pieces are locked down? What do you do? Move the other rook, I guess. Rook a to d8. Getting behind the pawn here, and also in front of my king. But there's no way to break this up, so there's no threat here. My king is blocking the pawn, and there's no way to make this pawn take anything, so no problems. But after rook a to f1, now I'm threatening to just come to e7 and take with my rook here. And then after the rook takes, I take back with my queen, check the king, either checkmate or take the knight, bring the other rook over, end the game. So they play rook to d7. Well, the best move would just be to take the knight here, and after they take your queen, you take the rook, and they basically can't stop checkmate. And you're in a winning endgame with 2 rooks versus 1 rook, and all they have is 1 extra pawn, 6 versus 5 pawns. So they're going to lose. Pretty easy to win with 2 rooks versus 1 rook. Their pawns aren't even close to getting a queen. So that would be a good game. But I didn't really think about that. Instead, I played g5, because now this pawn defends this pawn, and this rook can now move, and it just feels like a slight improvement. And there's no rush here. They can't do anything with 2 of their pieces locked down, so I can just take my time here. They play c5, starting the pawn movement down the board, but it's no use. And I can still take the knight here and simplify, but instead I play rook to c1. There's really no way to break through on the files here, so I figure, okay, I'll just bring my rooks over and somehow either break through on the queen side, and then come over here. Or I could take this pawn, which is defended by the knight, but remember, if the knight takes my rook, then I checkmate. So I'm trying to use the fact that this knight cannot move to my advantage, and try to remember that the squares that the knight can move to are not actually defended. So they defend the pawn with b6, and now I play b4, because if they take the pawn, then I play rook to c6, and after I take the knight with the rook, then I checkmate. So they don't want to take the pawn, they play rook to c7, defending the pawn, but now b captures c5, and after the pawn takes back, I decide this rook's not doing anything. Now that this pawn's defending this pawn, this rook is not doing anything, so let's bring the rook over to f1, lining it up on the f7 square, and also getting ready to bring it up. So c4, trying to make some progress, I guess, but they should just move their rook over, so that the rook defends this square, and then the knight can move, because this rook's defending this pawn, so these rooks are doing double duty here. Now rook f4, and I'm trying to target the pawns here, and this knight just can't move because it's checkmate. Rook to b7, maybe trying to bring the rook down and check me, because if I move to the wrong square, then they might have like a knight check, I guess, and they're just trying to set something up, but there's nothing there. I play rook to d4, attacking the pawn now, which is not defended by anything, and the knight still can't take. So rook to d8, defending the pawn here, and I can't take this rook right now because the knight defends it, but if I take the pawn, they can't take back with their pawn, because then I take their rook with my rook, and then I win. And now I'm about to play rook to c6, attacking the knight, and after I take the knight, I'm going to checkmate, of course. And they can't stop that, but they try to with rook to b6, but now there's no defender of the pawn, and it's mate in 5. Queen captures f7, and they resign, because after king to h8, queen f6 check, king h7, rook c7, knight takes, checkmate. And I won this game because I knew about the Greek gift bishop sacrifice on h7, and you should know it too. It does happen, and if you play chess, you will run into it, so you have to know it. So make sure you learn the moves, rewatch the video if you have to. Thanks for watching the Bobby Bo Show. Hit the like if you enjoyed the video. Hope you have an excellent rest of your day.